When we look at today's richest people in the world, we realize that almost all of them became wealthy through technology people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. But today we want to talk about someone who achieved unimaginable wealth in an era when technology didn't even exist, and who held the record as the richest businessman in history for nearly 100 years. This is the story of Standard Oil. Standard Oil was not an ordinary company. It was the largest monopoly the world had ever seen. However, Standard Oil didn't become powerful overnight. It rose to power gradually. Let's go back to the year 1839, when a boy was born in New York and named John D. Rockefeller. He was the eldest son of William Rockefeller, who owned a small herbal shop in Richford, New York. Whenever John asked his father for money, his father would tell him, "I don't have any." But John loved money and wanted to earn it, so he worked for neighbors to make a little income. When John turned 15, his father decided to move the family to Cleveland, Ohio. By then, John had already tasted what it felt like to earn money, and he didn't like school anymore. He believed school was a waste of time, so at 16 years old, he dropped out and started working. His first job was as a clerk in a small office, earning a very low salary, 50 cents a day, which is about $14 in today's money. John stayed there until he was 18 and then decided to quit. He took the money he had saved, used it as collateral for a loan, and opened his own office. Rockefeller was a born businessman. From a very young age, he knew how to make money. He bought products from farmers and sold them to shops as a middleman. In his very first year, he generated $500,000 in sales, with about $50,000 in profit. 1 year later, the first oil well in America was discovered near John's office. Oil had little value at the time. There were no cars or modern machines, so it wasn't considered very useful. Its best use back then was turning it into kerosene, which was used in lanterns for lighting. John became fascinated by this oil well and wanted to understand what could be done with oil. He read every article and piece of news he could find about it. As more oil wells were discovered across the U.S., most of them owned by ordinary people, Rockefeller noticed that the owners were struggling financially. He began thinking about buying their oil very cheaply and refining it into kerosene. Most of the oil discoveries at that time were in Pennsylvania. In 1863, a railway was built between Pennsylvania and Ohio, making it possible to transport large amounts of oil to Ohio. With his sharp business instincts, John D. Rockefeller realized it was the perfect time to build an oil refinery. By then, he had earned enough money over the previous 6 years to establish a strong refinery. He hired the best chemists in the region and told them to produce the highest quality kerosene possible. At that time, there were 26 other refineries in Ohio, but all of them produced low-quality kerosene. Rockefeller's product, however, was so superior that customers only wanted his, and other refineries began losing sales. Rockefeller quickly realized he could buy those struggling refineries at very low prices. He invited refinery owners one by one, showed them his company's profits, and said, "Look how much we're earning while you're making nothing. Sell your refinery to us, we'll grow it, hire you, and pay you a salary higher than what you're making now." Discouraged and desperate, the refinery owners sold their businesses one after another. 10 years later, by 1880, 90% of America's oil refining was under the control of John D. Rockefeller. A massive monopoly had formed, the largest monopoly in world history. This monopoly made Rockefeller so wealthy that he told railway companies, "I'll pay more than anyone else, but you must transport only my goods." This drove up railway prices, making it impossible for other factories to ship their products. The protests grew so intense that the U.S. government intervened, realizing a dangerous monopoly existed. The government saw that a monopoly could do whatever it wanted, so Congress decided to pass anti-monopoly laws. When Rockefeller learned about this, he created a trust in the state of New Jersey. A trust meant that Standard Oil was divided into 40 separate companies, all of whose profits ultimately went back to Rockefeller. Legally, it was no longer considered a monopoly because, on paper, these companies were competing with each other. By 1890, John D. Rockefeller owned 20,000 oil wells, had built 6,500 kilometers of oil pipelines across the U.S., and employed over 100,000 Americans at Standard Oil. That year, the company was worth $1 trillion in today's dollars. Rockefeller became so rich that he even loaned money to the U.S. government. When John D. Rockefeller died in 1937, his wealth was estimated over $400 billion in today's value. Until recently, he was considered the richest businessman in history. But in recent years, Elon Musk's net worth approached $500 billion, giving him the title of the wealthiest businessman in history today.